Mr. Speaker, like many Americans, I am outraged by what Trump is doing to the Cuban people. The oil blockade enacted by the Trump administration is cruel and indefensible. Cuba poses no threat to us, yet we are strangling an entire nation with economic warfare. These tactics are designed to suffocate an island into submission. Make no mistake, this unconscionable suffering is occurring because Trump is trying to force regime change.
I get so irritated. Irritated is the wrong word. Angry. When I find out that people take advantage of the American people's generosity. It makes me want to knee someone in the groin. It just makes me furious. And I think the American taxpayers feel the same way. What I'm about, and it is a fact that the politicians, not the employees, the rank and file employees and the welfare offices, but the politicians in Minnesota let this happen. It is disgusting, Mr. President. Disgusting. We're trying to put together a budget right now. And we've got state officials in Minnesota, because they wanted votes, that are allowing people in their state who are crooks to steal $1 billion from the American taxpayer. Money that could have gone to people who really were homeless, and children who really were hungry, and kids who through no fault of their own really were autistic, instead of stolen, a portion of which allegedly was sent to a terrorist organization in Somalia. Man, these people ought to all be put in jail, including the politicians. Makes me want to stick my head in.
And what is up, patriots? Welcome back to the channel. You just saw those first few seconds, and I'm telling you right now, buckle up, because what we are about to break down is nothing short of shocking. This is a tale of two Americas colliding in real time. On one side you have Ilhan Omar standing in Washington, D.C. preaching about outrage and international morality, acting like she holds the high ground while completely ignoring the chaos brewing right inside her own district. And on the other side you have the legend himself, John Kennedy, a man who is not afraid to rip the curtain wide open and expose a billion-dollar betrayal of the American taxpayer. This is not small, this is not politics as usual, this is massive. I am fired up after watching this, because the question has to be asked: how does someone like Ilhan Omar have the audacity to lecture the country while her own backyard is turning into the epicenter of what John Kennedy called one of the most disgusting fraud scandals in American history? We are talking about money that was meant for hungry children, stolen money that was supposed to help autistic children, gone. This is not just a policy failure, this is a complete moral collapse. This is bigger than politics, this is about right and wrong, and today we are diving all the way in, so let's keep watching and see how deep this really goes in our country.
In our country, when you are hungry, we feed you. When you are homeless, we house you. When you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. We spend trillions of dollars a year helping our friends and neighbors who are less fortunate than we are. And that's rare in this world. I've been all over our wonderful world. You have too, Mr. President, and in many countries, if you get down on your luck, they'll let you die in a ditch, but not in America. Not in America. We take care of our fellow citizens. I'm about to tell you, Mr. President, let me apologize in advance, is deeply disgusting. It's deeply disgusting. I mean, it is clown world on steroids. And when I first read about this, Mr. President, I read it a second time because I experienced slack-jawed astonishment. And when I read it a second time and I realized it was true, I just wanted to run away screaming. What am I talking about? So far, 59 people have been convicted, 86 have been charged, and 78 of them are of Somali ancestry. That's just a fact. Now, what these criminals did they had three very elaborate schemes. The first scheme was centered on supposedly feeding hungry children in the Somali community. A group, a nonprofit run by some people with Somali ancestry. The name of the nonprofit was called Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future. Feeding Our Future went to the welfare authorities in the state of Minnesota, which of course was administering federal taxpayer money, and they said, "Look, Feeding Our Children said, Feeding Our Future said, we want to feed hungry children in the Somali community." And the welfare people in state government in Minnesota gave them the money to do that. It started out very small.
Unbelievable, just absolutely unreal. I am sitting here trying to process the level of sheer audacity it takes for something like this to happen right in front of everyone. John Kennedy is 100% right. This is clown world on steroids, and people are fed up. Let's talk about the main figure here, John Kennedy. This man has become a voice for common sense in a city that seems allergic to it. When he says he wants to knee someone over, this he is speaking for every hardworking taxpayer, every person who wakes up, works a job, pays their taxes, and expects that money to actually help people, not line the pockets of fraudsters buying luxury items. But we cannot ignore the elephant in the room, Ilhan Omar and the Minnesota Democrats. How does $1 billion just disappear over 5 years? How does that even happen? John Kennedy laid it out clearly: 3 separate schemes: feeding children, stolen housing for the homeless, stolen autism treatment, bribed and stolen. This is systemic, this is organized, and it happened right under their watch. And while all of this is going on, Ilhan Omar is on the House floor talking about Cuba, talking about foreign issues, while her own district is dealing with a massive criminal operation. It is pure distraction, it is redirection at its finest. And then comes the most infuriating part, the shield of politics and fear. John Kennedy pointed it out. State employees saw the fraud, they raised the alarm, and what happened? They were told to stand down because politicians were afraid of losing support from a key voting bloc. Let that sink in. They chose votes over children, they chose power over justice. That is not just corruption, that is a complete betrayal of trust. And where is the media? Where is the outrage? Silence, because this story does not fit the narrative. It does not protect figures like Tim Walz or the political machine surrounding Ilhan Omar. If this was happening in a Republican state, it would dominate every headline for weeks, but because it is happening in Minnesota, it gets buried. John Kennedy said it clearly: these people belong in jail, not just the ones who stole the money, but also the ones who looked the other way and allowed it to continue. We need more voices like John Kennedy, people who are not afraid to speak the truth no matter how loud the crowd gets. So now the question is yours: do you think Ilhan Omar should be held responsible for what happened in her district? Should Tim Walz face legal consequences for what has been exposed? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button for John Kennedy, and make sure you subscribe to keep the truth alive. Stay strong, patriots.